unique, and what you're seeing on your screen, and it probably resonates you, with the brain imaging that you saw a while ago. What you see on your center is basically a metaphor for the human brain. And you'll see the left side of your brain, which is with gold and red. You'll see the right side of your brain, which is the green and the blue behavior preference. And then you have the front, which is the gold and the green, and the rear of the brain. So if you look at your brain with a top view, we're able to kind of, get an idea, in terms of the behavior preferences. Now, what you were able to get and the value that PRISM drives is it creates awareness. Okay, so when you pay attention to what your behavior preference is, and when you try and map that with a situation, and you say that, look, am I getting the results that I want? You'll be able to figure out to say that, okay, is your behavior helping you, or is it hurting you in this situation? And what is it that you need to then do to try and fix this? So rather than just identifying a training need and saying that, okay, this is what we think the training need is based on the observed behavior, a PRISM Brain Map allows you to dig a bit more detail, okay? Because the belief is that the attention that you pay to a particular behavior will drive that particular trait, or will drive that particular action. It's kind of the same thing, when we talk about, getting fit, when we talk about weight loss, when we start paying attention to a diet, when we start paying attention to our workout regimen, when we start paying attention to the other bits in terms of, not eating the junk foods and all the rest of it, or having an active lifestyle, we're able to make a sustainable change in our fitness, okay, that comes through over a period of time, right? Same happens with our behavior. Our behavior does not change overnight. And that's essentially, when you observe when people go on a training and development program, if they're back in on a training and development program, you see that, there's a greater effectiveness in the first week when people are back, because the knowledge is still fresh and they're paying attention to that. But if the environment is not conducive, if they're not able to kind of repeatedly do that, you will see that the training effectiveness fades over a period of time. And people tend to lose out on stuff that at some stage they had a very good handle on. Okay, and that's the same with behaviors. So what PRISM does is it creates the awareness on the candidates, it creates that focus using an objective platform. Okay, so for instance, when you look at a PRISM Brain Map, you not only get a candidate's underlying behavior preference, so what is it that they are hardwired for, where is it that they have a higher preference on, but you also get their adapted behavior preference. So, where is it that they're tweaking their behavior at the moment, depending on their situation, depending on their environment, depending on, the current needs, even at this point in time. And what you're able to do is you're able to map this against a benchmark. So when a person is particularly performing a job, what is the behavior preference for that job? Okay. Now, essentially, whenever we talk about behaviors, the language is often very subjective. Okay. So what's good behavior for me may not be good behavior for you, and vice versa. So what happens is, even when you are giving someone feedback about behavior, you might come at it from a very different perspective. So, we had one of our clients, they had a management team that was based out in the US, and they had the delivery team that was based in India. And when we went in on the intervention, we saw that there was a lot of variance in the communication, not because they had any different intentions or anything on those lines, but it was just the mindset that they came in, or the preference of the language, right? So the management team in the US, they looked at aggression as a very favorable term. So whenever they had to give feedback to someone, they would rate them on those parameters, because based on their culture, based on their awareness, they looked at that as a very positive trait. Whereas from the delivery team's perspective, because they had a different background, they had a different cultural perspective, they had a different mindset where they came in from, the focus was more on getting things right and being right most of the time, rather than trying to compete and saying that we want to be first and make mistakes, right? And again, this was a classic example of best laid plans. So none of the teams had any, different intentions to kind of, create conflict. But with the way they saw the situation from their perspective, it's like the Mona Lisa. The way they saw the situation from their prism deferred to the way that the other team was looking at it. And all it needed was a little bit of an adjustment on both sides so that they could form an effective bridge. They could adapt their communication. But we could not identify those steps if we did not know where they were focused. But once we were able to demonstrate to both of those teams where their focus areas lay, where their higher behavior preferences lay, it was easier to identify situations. It was easier to identify the occasions where they had to tweak it and by how much they had to tweak it. So what PRISM does is it gives you a platform to neutralize those preconceived ideas, to neutralize that preconceived knowledge areas, and to build on a common platform. Because regardless of what your background is, whether you've been educated at the IMs or whether you have a degree from Harvard or whether you've been to a local business school, when you take a PRISM inventory, the other person is also taking the inventory and interpreting it exactly in the same context. So there's no variance. We tend to neutralize any previous experiences, any kind of developments that an individual would have, and we're able to kind of bring everybody on an even platform.